Back when Donald Trump was newer to presidential politics, he would often frame himself as the foremost authority on, well, pretty much everything.
Nobody knows the system better than me. I alone can fix it.
I understand things. I comprehend very well, okay? Better than, I think, almost anybody.
Nobody knows more about construction than I do.
I think I know more about the environment than most people. I know more about wind than you do.
These days, though, Trump sounds a little different. Maybe it's the sagging poll numbers or the unpopular policies, but he seems more willing than ever to admit the limits of his self-described very large brain.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
Are your administration sending migrants to Libya?
I don't know. You'll have to ask Homeland Security.
Will you exempt some products that families rely on?
I don't know. I'll think about it. I don't know. I really don't know.
So can you explain why you picked her to be America's top doctor?
Because Bobby thought she was fantastic. I don't know her. I listened to the recommendation of Bobby.
I don't know. Well, let's bring in our panel. Tim Miller is a writer at large for The Bulwark and host of the Bulwark podcast. And Rick Stengel is former Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs, former managing editor of Time magazine, and a former member of the Biden transition team. Both are MSNBC political analysts. Okay, Tim.
I don't know.
Your reaction to all that good sound.
You tell me. Now, look, this is like, can I compliment Trump? Is that allowed? I almost never do it. Here's the one thing that he has as like a non-politician. He can get away with this kind of stuff in the way that politicians can't. He did this thing yesterday where they're asking him what he thought about the idea to raise taxes on the top tax bracket. And he was like, we could do it. Or we could not. I don't know. I don't care about it. We'll see what happens.
That's not how I heard that exchange.
On the bleat that he sent on social media, is like the Congress could do it. If they could do it, I think it could be a good idea. But if they didn't do it, I'm just saying you could do both. And I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to avoid accountability. A lot of bad stuff is happening for this administration. He doesn't want to be the one that's accountable for it. And rather than trying to spin, he's just going to try to elide.
So the way I saw that exchange was that he told Congress to raise taxes on billionaires and millionaires or whatever, and then they like visibly recoiled in a way that you do not normally see Republicans do right now, or at least elected Republicans. And then he backed off and said, well, they could do it. They could maybe do it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But that's his point, because that's his point. His point is like he can just say whatever he wants one day, come out the next day and say the complete opposite, and just keep hedging in between these two things. And people are like waiting for him to take a position on something, and his position can be the exact opposite 24 hours later.
His position is whatever you want it to be.
Yes, exactly. And there's no, and that's, and to
there's
Tim's
some
point,
benefit
no
in that in
political
politics.
Yes.
There is some benefit in that in politics. Like, Obama was not as shameless about it at all, right? But like, there was this thing where people projected kind of their wishes onto him, and Trump like has that a little bit. It doesn't work for me, but it is working for him for some folks.
Let me read for you this quote from David Graham from The Atlantic. He says, Trump is hiding behind his lawyers, and the president wants to seize new powers, yet he's also eager to hand off responsibility for hard decisions. I think for us, like people who have watched Trump have always been maybe, yes, worried about who he is and what he allows to happen. But then it's the people behind the scenes who, the Project 2025s and the people who are really kind of weaponizing that agenda and getting away with it that are not getting the limelight. And he just deflects to them. He's like, I don't know, you're going to have to ask my lawyer about that. I don't know, you're going to have to ask Homeland Security about that.
You know where that comes from?
Tell me.
The unified field theory of Trump is the mob boss persona. I mean, I grew up in New York. When I was a kid, there were mafia trials all the time. And Carmen Gigante, Castellano, they're testifying, and they go, are you a member of the mafia? And they go, what is that? I don't know. That was the normal reply that Mafia Don said at those trials. They denied knowing anything about the Cosa Nostra, anything. You saw that over and over. That is his persona. You know, Roy Cohn was a mob lawyer. That's what he learned to do. And when you deny you know about something, you're not responsible for it. Like, you know about these people being deported to Libya. I don't know. Yeah. Then you can't say, why didn't you do anything about it? Well, I don't know. I mean, could I be a mafia boss when I've never even heard of the mafia? That's what he's doing.
I will point out that Trump has actually said this many times under oath himself. He was a Roy Cohn client as well, of course, as you mentioned. I believe in December 2015 testimony over Trump University, Trump told lawyers, I don't remember 35 times.
Yes.
And then in the 30 times, he said it 30 times more to special counsel Robert Mueller in 2019. So how did that work out for him?
Well, I mean, in the Trump U case, it didn't work out great, right? And I do think that you're right about this parallel. And I think that the bullying side of it is also similar to the mob boss, right? Like people are in his good graces and then his bad graces, right? Like there are people that are in the inside circle and they get kicked out, but nobody's ever gone, right? Like you can bring them back. And it is kind of the way he treats Corey Lewandowski or all of his underlings. Like that is his mindset. It is very opposite from a traditional political mindset. It's not achieving a lot of positive political results. Like we're not seeing a lot of positive policies getting advanced from it, but it is kind of protecting him in a certain way from some of the damage.
Well, as we head into this weekend of negotiations over tariffs, I mean, even then on Truth Social, he said something like 80% tariff on China seems right, but it's up to Scott B.
Right.
What do you make of that?
But that's also like blaming your lawyers. I'm not responsible for that. I mean, but I have to say, I now err on the side of he really doesn't know these things. I mean, the conversation that he had with the new Canadian Prime Minister, where he said we have a $200 billion deficit with Canada. I mean, there's just completely wrong. I mean, you wrote about it. I mean, I just think he actually doesn't have the data in his head. And he does believe that he has this capacity to react in real time, like, hey, Mr. President, so what should we do about tariffs on China? 80%? How does that sound? Yeah, that sounds good.
I think he just echoes whatever the last person said to him.
Yeah.
So, like, if Peter Navarro, not Scott B., was deciding these things.
Peter N.
Pardon?
Peter N.
Yes, exactly. If he was the one who had last spoken to Trump, we would hear a different tariff level.
Kind of like sixth grade with the little nicknames and everything. I mean, he has some principles that he has stuck with for a long time. I mean, he's been a believer in tariffs since he was president in the 19th century. But so there's a certain consistency there, but he doesn't have the details in his head.
But he is a master of spectacle, and that's the part, and people still fall for it, right? Like earlier this week, he had this trade deal with the UK, and he had the British Prime Minister on the phone, and everybody was there, and Howard Lutnick was like clapping and laughing, as he always does. And then he'll just announce like a big deal, but then there really is no substance to the deal, and very few little things are happening. But then it's celebrated as like, look, I did it. I got them to come back, and here we are announcing a big deal. And everybody's like, wait a minute, what the hell is the actual deal?
How have we not learned about this? This trade deal press conference was the one example where I was like, are we doing the first term all over again? They didn't change the tariff rate. He added a 10% tariff on UK. And there's still a 10% tariff on UK. He just gave a 0% carve out for the Rolls-Royce engine, so to do a favor to the airplanes that they put them in, right? So he didn't announce anything, but he goes there, he gets to have a press conference, there's wall to wall. You have a mob thing where everybody's sucking up to the Don. You've got Howard Lutnick, out there kissing the ring and being ostentatious. And then there's, stories. You'll get a Wire story. It's like, well, there was a deal. And it's like, not really. Actually, it was worse than it was before. And it's not even finalized.
And you would think from listening.
It's his deal. As long as it's his deal, it's better. Like when he renegotiates with Mexico and Canada, it can be the same thing that Biden negotiated or Obama. It's my deal. It's the best deal ever. He'll do this with Iran, right? He'll negotiate the same thing. It'll be less strict, but it'll be the greatest deal in history.
And if you're not paying close enough attention from listening to Lutnick and others, you would not even know that Trump had started this whole thing in the first place.
Yeah.
Like they think they're de-escalating a fight they started. Right.